I'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity, podcast for business owners. And today we're talking about cloning someone, and there'll be a number of these in this series, and so it's not easy to clone the business owner. And so Elaine, can you give Rosanna, Ginger Ann, Elise, and Adam an like a top view, like understanding of the coffee connection this last time?
You mean regarding what was said or what we're going to do for the next one?
Uh, what you felt happened.
Okay, so my take on the coffee connection that happened, Tim wanted to Tim wanted to keep us on topic. And so he kept checking the time. Samuel was very guarded on everything that he had said and did. And Mel's girlfriend, Abigail, was there as a distraction for Mark, or like she wanted to distract Mark. I'm not sure if I'm going in the direction you want me to go
No,
here.
that's exactly. No, you're doing good. It's like, holy cow. No, keep going.
Cheryl took the initiative and stepped up and said she would be in charge of appointing 4 people for the next coffee connection if nobody volunteered, and she needed that by 11 o'clock. So the people that are on that are myself, Cheryl, Mel, Abigail. I was thinking there's Jason. I think there was 5 or 6 of us that are on that for the topic for the next time.
And Levon.
Not sure if I covered everything.
And Levon.
Oh yeah, Levon's on there.
Yeah.
He volunteered.
Yeah. So what I learned a couple coffee connections ago, this is why coffee connections is so important. Because I learned things there that I don't learn in any other situation. And so what I learned a few months ago is that when I talk about myself, people think I am asking for praise or recognition, or I'm lifting myself up for ego.
Yeah, and that's what Tim and Samuel were what they were getting out of the coffee connection
this last time.
Yeah, well, Tim's been getting that every time, but yeah, he got that until all of a sudden it kind of changed tunes a little bit on when we were talking more on the hiring of the leadership position.
So what I learned a few months ago is that if I talk about myself, I better be really, really, really careful and probably very, very clear.
Yeah.
And so Tim went ahead, and I don't think it's dramatic. He was blown away by how what he did 3 or 4 months ago all of a sudden got put into a system, a process, an agenda, everything. Like everything that was done, he's like, who did this work? How did this get done?
True.
And so what happened after that, Elaine?
Well, you were telling him that he was the person that got this together, that he was the one that wanted an agenda, and this is what we've got.
How did he respond to that?
He didn't want to take the ownership of him having done that. He wanted some kind of structure and wanted to be forceful of having a structure, but he didn't want to take the recognition of him being the one that actually did it, because he didn't put it on paper. He might have put the option or the idea out there, but it wasn't him that put it on paper.
So he's like, I want to understand how this happens, how it happened. So he thought he needed to know who did all of the work.
Correct. Just the part where you put it on paper.
Yeah. So he wanted to know who did the work, like who made this happen. And he never did get that answer.
No.
And so when he says, I want to understand, like he was blown away. It's like he had never experienced anything like that in his life. It seemed like to me, he was like an awestruck. He's like, I want to know how to do this for my own company.
Yes.
Questions?
No, I just apparently missed a good one.
Yeah, it was crazy. So do you all see what Elaine is doing?
She's
Fully.
watching from the outside and observing everybody's response to things that happened at the coffee
So she's
connection.
watching everything. And so when she came in on the pre-podcast, she's talking about what happened next time. When we started the podcast, that's why you always show up early and stay late for podcasts. That if you can join a live podcast, it's crazy. Anyways, so what she went ahead but then when we got on to have it recorded, she asked an interesting question. What question did she ask?
What you were looking for?
What I was looking for. Like, I don't know if what I was doing, is that what you were looking for? I said, no, the feelings. And she immediately shifted gears, like totally different. So before it was mechanical, this is what we did, this is what's happening next, boom, boom, boom. There's nothing wrong with that. But in the cloning of the business owner, it's the warm belly rubs. We'll do that, share that story in another podcast. You definitely want to have that one, because that was 20 years ago. And that was a life-changing 20-year event. Like, it was just a normal everyday situation until it wasn't. And then I went with Jason and Kenny and Luke and Rosanna, and we did a construction project yesterday. And that was a life-changing event. There's all these things. It's like frozen in time. It was just crazy. Anyways, so Elaine shifted gear into feeling, and then she went through each person. But then, so she was sharing and doing a wonderful job at it. Then I inserted a couple of things and inserted it, and then I paused. And what did she do on each pause? Very significant and very important for everybody to learn.
She asked questions.
Nope.
She switched to a new person?
She what?
She switched to a new person?
No. So she's talking, I jump in and I say something. And after I said something, she did something very, very, very important that nobody really ever does. So, and she doesn't even know, because it's unconscious. So what she did is she validated everything I said. Why is that so important? She said, yes, that's true. Yes. So after I said something and paused, she said, that's true. Or she said, yes. Why is that so important?
Because your feelings are important?
No.
No. Okay. Because it helps give validation to help move things forward.
Yes, it helps validate other people. Other people will go ahead and say, what Mark is telling is true. See, people see a lot of the expressive in me. And the expressives you tend not to believe, because they tend to be dramatic. And so you don't is what they're saying really true? Because they're dramatic. Because people see that part of me so much, they're like, is this really true? So what it does is it helps you all to, like, you're there, you're being there. Like, you're being there, you're present, you're experiencing it even when you're not. Now, Tim called me and he said that he's probably not going to be there next time. And he was wondering if we could have a computer there, and that we could have a Zoom call so he could participate even though he's not going to be there. Which is interesting because he wasn't even sure if he was coming back again. So now he's so into it. He's so into it that he wants to be there even if he's not there. Questions?
How are we going to do that?
Well, that's another piece. So what was he asking for when he says, how is this done? How do I get this done in my company? What's he saying? But it sounds, I can't say it. I can't say it because if I say it, it sounds like ego. It sounds like I'm lifting myself up. And I've learned, don't do that, because if you do that, people will actually think you're lifting yourself up. When in reality, that's not at all why I'm doing it. I'm doing it to go ahead and help other people see, hey, there's a model here. There's a model here that there's a model here that if you pay attention and you pay attention to this person and watch and study this person, get other people to watch and study this person, that then you will grow and accelerate a much faster pace.
I think what he was trying to figure out is if you put the piece together yourself by your own ideas, or if you were actually putting together what he was asking you to put together, or maybe not you per se, but somebody put together.
I think he was trying to do, he was trying to figure out how to get employees to do that for him.
That too, but yeah.
I think he wanted to clone you and put you in his business without you being there.
Yeah, and he didn't know that's what he was doing. He wanted to find out, he wanted to find the person. He wanted to find out what, like, who's the person? It's not the person, it's the process. But what's the process? The process, I went from a leader to a servant. I went from leading, and I saw that he had a brilliant idea. And then I tried to get other people to jump in and do stuff, but I couldn't get anybody to do anything. And then when he drove the second part through, I saw that as being brilliant too. And I wanted to get people to go ahead and put that in place, but I couldn't get anybody to do that. So I just stepped in and became the servant and did the work. So you're absolutely right, Ginger Ann. He wants me. And I kind of alluded to it subtly. Said, well, if you get somebody like that who can actually do that, they're probably going to take your company away from you. So that was one very significant piece where I adjusted a whole bunch of how I do everything into something else. And I think it created more intrigue. The other piece was what Mel said. And I don't know if Elaine caught it. Pretty sure nobody else did.
On what area?
He saw something.
With Samuel or with
Just
Tim?
everybody. Me and everybody. He saw what my mom saw.
Then no, I probably didn't catch that part.
So my mom had a coffee connection. So if you're bored on this, I understand. I totally do. If you're saying, Mark, I don't understand what you're doing. We're talking about cloning. Like, how is this cloning? This is cloning. I don't know of any faster, better way to do it. It's to take stories and to have people see a story, experience a story, and then say, what do you see about that story? And then when they tell you everything they see, and then you say, this is what I see in the story, and they're like, dang, I did not see that. And then they go back and look and they say, sure enough, I see it now, but I didn't before. So Mel's in a different frequency than anyone else in the group. He can see stuff other people cannot see. Maybe because he's, I don't know, 10 years older than everybody. I don't know what his age is. I don't know everybody else's, but I'm guessing he's 10 years older. So I don't know if it's life or whatever. But he was in amazement. Like my mom, after my dad died, she went to a Coffee Connection and she came up afterwards and she said, Mark, my mom, and you can validate this with my wife and any of my kids, my mom, even as a grandmother, was not a big validator of people. And she was intentional about that because she didn't want people to get big heads. So she didn't praise people, her own grandkids, definitely her own sons. So when you got a validation from my mom, you remembered it because it never came. Like it just few and far between. And so she came up after Coffee Connection. Again, this is after 55 years of being married to my dad. And so I never heard her say anything like this ever in my life to me. She came up afterwards. She said, Mark, you are amazing. I said, okay, awesome, Mom. Like, why? So a lot of people actually say I'm amazing. Tom Kuntz has said it, Peter Mile. A lot of people tell me I'm amazing. What I have found is I better ask why. Like, what do they see? Because that's important so I can continue to do it. If it goes to my head and get into the ego, it doesn't do any good because then I can't clone it in myself. I probably won't do an amazing thing again. Like I did it on accident. Didn't even know I did it. You know? And so when somebody validates me, I don't allow it to get to my ego because I know that's not going to help anything. All it's going to do is hurt. So it's like it doesn't go to my ego. I just become curious, like, why? And she said, Mark, you flow. And she was speechless. My mom was speechless, which was priceless to me. And she's like, you know, there were young kids there and people in their 80s and 90s, men and women, boys and girls. There were Chinese and Latino and Black. Like you had the whole color of everything. Like you have ethnic, age, gender, diversity. You had diversity. And she said, it didn't matter who it was. You flowed flawlessly through everything. I'm like, oh, Mom, thanks. I appreciate that. That's very kind. So if it goes to ego and you think I'm awesome, then you're not anymore. You're just normal. But if you hide it in your heart and go, huh, that's interesting. I wonder how I could do that more frequently. I wonder how I could do it intentionally. I wonder how I could transfer it over to other people. And that's what Mel did. Mel saw the same thing. He had the same excitement on his face. He's like, Mark, like what you did in the words, like the words, you found the right words for like he was just like his brain had gone into overload in what he had just seen. And it's like, that was crazy. And so if somebody else says in the next Coffee Connection, I was thinking about what Tim said or did. And Mark, what he's really looking for, he's looking for somebody like you. Okay. I can see that. And it's like, so can we ask you some questions to reverse engineer you to either find people like you or to build people who are like you? This has nothing to do with Mark. It doesn't. It's no ego. It's just in business. I'm a great secondhand man. I'm better at a vice president than a president, I think, for sure. Because I study people. I don't want to have to be asked twice for anything. I don't want to be asked once. I want to be so good. And so this is how you clone people, is you have these long drawn out stories, and you're like, it's just, and my wife and my kids probably, and other people that know me roll their eyes probably, which is okay, and say, I've heard this story before. And it's like, have you? Have you really? Are you sure? Because hearing it and being able to repeat the story is one thing. Hearing it, internalizing and understanding the significance of it is a totally different way to listen. And that's what Coffee Connections is all about. And I don't know if you can get that same thing in a Zoom call or on the phone. Maybe you can. I don't know. I mean, it's happened before on the phone. So if you have any questions on this, definitely talk to your Action Vision coach, because you have something if you're a business owner. And especially if you're a business owner with more than 7 years of experience, or more than 7 years in business, and you're one of the 3%, you're one of the few that survive. So congratulations. But there's things that you have as a business owner that you don't even know you have. So on another podcast, we'll talk about the 4 levels of learning and how that connects in, and the warm belly rub. And we'll talk about there's so many of these other things that had forged. Like, people think it's Mark's way of thinking. It's not Mark's way of thinking. It's what Mark has spent 59 years trying to figure out, how can he think in the best possible way, which is not the way he's currently thinking. He needs to think in a better way. So I'm always looking, okay, how can I think more effectively? And how do we teach those people around us to do the same thing? Well, I think we expose them to these types of things. So talk to your Action Vision coach, look at your Action Vision plan, build that in. Maybe you share this with your team. I don't know. Maybe you do this with every applicant and you say, watch this video and let me know what you think. Maybe that's part of your screening process. If people, well, I don't know what he was saying. Maybe you don't hire. Maybe you do. Like, I don't know. So hopefully this was helpful. I love Voices of Integrity because it helps us to see, think, and do in ways that we've never done. If you have any questions, again, connect with the individual who invited you, or you can call toll free 888-230-2300 outside the US, 630-393-9909. And always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.